First of all, tell the Brazilian players who you are and what you do in Brazil.
My name is Dustin Browder, and I'm the game director on StarCraft 2.
Nice. I have some questions here. I just took from the people that are watching the streams. And the first thing people said in Brazil is if there is specific plans for the Brazilian scenario, Blizzard plans something. Is there something like this in mind?
But one of the things we've been trying to do with this series of tournaments over the last 8 months is try to get more esports in more places in the world where we've got a lot of passionate gamers, but maybe there's not sort of quite the same level of established scene or not the same level of tournament support that we see in other places in the world. So we'd certainly love to see a lot more tournaments, you know, in South America, a lot more tournaments in Central America, a lot more tournaments in parts of Eastern Europe and places where we haven't been able to see quite as much as we really like. And so we're going to continue that going forward. We're going to see what we can do next year to make sure that we've got some of this grassroots support. So we've got some support for these tournaments to make sure that local heroes from all these different countries can have a venue they can go to, a tournament they can play at, where then they can go on to take on these champions. And we're seeing some pretty exciting upsets today here at BWC as a result.
Yeah, so we can see some people that were not like Titan and Vortex, Lucifer,
right,
some time ago.
We didn't know who these guys were, right? And now
yes.
we're seeing them come out, and that's what's so exciting about this format for us. It's not just a Korean tournament or a North American tournament. It's truly an international tournament, pulling people from all over the world together to play in kind of an Olympics of StarCraft 2. And it's produced some really amazing games and some great upsets and some really dramatic matches.
I will talk about Heart of the Swarm, and then perhaps you finish your questions, and then we go into Heart of the Swarm.
Okay, I have more questions.
Cool.
Okay. So we have in Brazil now Go for League of Legends, Go for LoL, and it's something being said about Go for StarCraft 2. You have something of this in mind?
I don't know what Go For is.
Go For is a tournament that happens in Europe,
right, okay,
United States.
Okay, I haven't heard of that tournament, but all right.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so we are trying to maybe do something like that. Go For StarCraft 2 in Brazil.
I think that would be awesome.
It's a weekly tournament.
Oh, that sounds really cool.
Yeah,
that sounds really awesome.
There are some chance that StarCraft 2 became a free game for people to play.
No, never. In Valencia, I had an interview where somebody asked me, would StarCraft go free to play? And I said, like everything in Blizzard, we would talk about it. And that's true. We talk about everything all the time. We talk about all kinds of bad ideas, you know, and good ideas, trying to figure out which ones are which. So obviously, when free to play became, you know, more in vogue in Asia, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, we started talking more about, is this a model we should be considering for any of our games going forward? Yeah, it came up for StarCraft 2. We looked at it, and we kind of decided that the game was not designed in a way that would make that functional. Right? If I have a siege tank and you don't, and I'm not even sure that's a more fun game for me at that point. I guess it's fun to beat people up, but at a certain point, you do want fair matches, right? And you do want an even chance. You don't want to get into a game and go, yeah, I'm winning, and then you're like, I'm better than this guy, and you find out, oh no, maybe I'm not better. He just hasn't bought the game yet, right? He hasn't bought all this stuff. So, we talk about it, of course, and we'll continue to talk about it from time to time, but there's really no serious discussions on the table. I'd be very surprised if it happened. I'm not saying it'll never happen, because we talk about stuff, but it's not happening. We're not talking about it. I don't think it's real.
That's a funny thing, because people don't like the idea that StarCraft becomes free.
I think a lot of
the community don't like this idea.
Well, I think our fans understand game design. They understand what a danger would that be. They've done the same map that we've done, and they go, how would that work and still be cool? And so they look at it and they go, I don't see how that would be cool. Right? So if we were going to do it, we have to present a really solid plan about how this is going to be cool, how this is going to make the game work, how this is going to be a better experience for all, not just a way for us to get more fans and make a bunch more money, right? So we haven't figured out how to do that. I don't expect that we will figure out how to do that for StarCraft 2. I think we're looking forward to a game like Blizzard All-Stars. That's a game where we can experiment with that model, try that out, see how that feels to us, see if we can make a game in that space that feels good and fun and fair and honest and right. I just don't see it happening for StarCraft.
Since you're talking about Blizzard All-Stars, do you have an idea when this comes up? The feeling I have is that you was going to release that with StarCraft 2, and then after the other games start to grow up, you kind of like it and say, no, come on, let's do a really good game or something like that.
I'll tell you exactly what happened. We sat down and we said, it'd be cool to make like a map and and put it on our service. That'd be cool. Let's just do that, right? Yeah. So like, we had a couple of guys in the studio very passionate about this genre of game. Like, let's do it. So we started working on it, and we showed something at, you know, at BlizzCon one day. Let's work on it a little more. It's pretty fun. And so we worked on it a little bit more. And then next BlizzCon go up, we're like, let's show it again. We just let's do it quite a lot. And then we got a lot of great feedback from that BlizzCon. There's a lot of excitement for the game. We're like, you know what? Let's really work on it some more. As we kind of fell in love with it, right? It had nothing to do with what's going on with StarCraft. It had nothing to do with what's going on in the industry. We're not even paying it. You know, we weren't considering that. We were just like, would this be fun to make? Do we have ideas that we want to work on? And the more we worked on it, the more ideas we got of things to make a truly legitimate difference and change to this genre. Something that's easier to play, something that's more difficult to master, something that's got clearer game rules, something that's got more strategic depth. And the more we worked on it, the more excited we got. So yeah, I don't know now. I don't know what's going to happen next week. Like maybe next week we'll find something really cool, but I'm very excited that the work that the team has done. They put in a lot of great effort on it, and it's starting to really feel like its own game. You know, it's starting to feel like something kind of fresh and new.
Okay. This year we did not have BlizzCon. We made this great event. Do you have plans to have another World Championship series next year? Or
I have no idea what's going to happen again next year. We are still just trying to survive this year. Like we're doing everything we can to make sure this event runs effectively and smoothly. We've had some hiccups here, you know, in terms of some sound issues. We're trying to work it all out. So we're going to be done with this. We're going to go back to the office and we're going to sit and discuss. Okay, what did we learn? What do we want to do next year? We're going to talk to our partners all over the world, you know, the major tournament organizers, the MLGs, the NASLs, the DreamHacks, the GSLs, all of these guys, and say, hey guys, what are you looking for next year? What do you think would be the best, most effective way for us to leverage our effort to really help esports and StarCraft 2 be the best possible experience for our esports fans all over the world? Once we gather that data, then we'll probably have some announcements about what our plans are for next year. But we want to be smart about it, and we've got some learning we're still doing, and some stuff we got to put together to make that decision.
Last question because people made me do this.
Okay,
yeah, they are asking why so few Terranos. Don't Blizzard are looking into.
Oh, we're totally looking, but we can't manipulate the results from one tournament, right? Like, I couldn't go in and just change the balance here just today. So that would be kind of fun. No, but I can't do that, right? So, you know, we've had, you know, Terran dominance in many cases in tournaments for almost a year, you know, for quite a while, right? And, you know, we were seeing at that time a big victories in GSL, but much more diverse in Europe, much more diverse in North America. In a lot of tournaments, and a lot of tournaments around the world, much more diverse. So even though GSL was looking very Terran-centric, we were seeing lots of wins everywhere else. Obviously, you know, GSL is one of the most competitive environments. So you can argue we should balance just for that, which is fair enough. We didn't make a lot of moves. We made a few changes. You know, we did an increase to Queen range, which was supposed to prevent a lot of Hellion run-bys, and it did for a while. And now we're seeing a lot of Hellion run-bys. Like they're just doing it later with more, right? Like if they don't do it with 4, they do it with 8, and they do it later. And there's just not enough queens to block, but sometimes there is. So that felt like a really solid change to me. I know it's still a controversial change in the community, but I really feel like the balance team made the right choice in that sense because it did prevent the Terrans just trading minerals for drones whenever they wanted to. Now they have to put a little more effort to trade minerals for drones. It's still powerful, but. For a tournament like this, you gotta understand how grueling tournament this was for a lot of players, right? Like this was not an easy tournament to get into. No. This was not a walk in the park for these guys. They had to put in lots and lots of time and lots of effort, and we saw great players eliminated from this tournament, right? So the other thing I think people should be real about is these players are all really good. And you're in my head, and like, well, I know MVP's the best. I know it. He's the best by this much. Yeah. Sometimes it's a lot, but in a lot of cases, it's just by a little bit. And so if he has a bad day, you know, take him to his throw, you know, he's a little bit off his game. Jet lag. He suddenly loses. You know, we saw Rain here lose yesterday, and it's such shocking upset. So just be real that even though you may think you know who the best in the world is, and you think he's the best in the world by 450%, he's really the best in the world by 2 or 3%, right? And given an opportunity to compete, given maybe a little jet lag or anything, or he's just not focused enough, these guys can absolutely lose. The best in the world can absolutely lose to not the best in the world. And we're seeing a lot of that here today, which is super exciting for us. So would I'd love to see more tournament representation in this tournament? Obviously. The only thing I ever want to see is 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 in any tournament. But we are seeing good numbers in other tournaments, and we're going to watch this, right? And if we see fundamental things that look horribly broken, we're taking a hard look at Infestor right now, based on a lot of feedback we see from the community. But if we see something fundamentally broken, we will absolutely deal with it. But we can't just change it overnight. We can't just go in and say, well, I saw one bad tournament, change everything. That'd be a huge mistake, right? Because next week may be completely different. We've seen it happen many times.
And there is something curious about this. Sometimes you don't change anything, and then the game, one race dominates.
So we are watching, we are terrified all the time that it's about to go bad for us. We are watching all the tournaments as much as we can, as much as everybody out there in the community is. We're playing on ladder all the time. We are absolutely experiencing everything the community's experienced, right? I'm laddering many, many times a week. David Kim is laddering many times a week. We've got 6 or 7 guys on the team, 3 or 4 guys on cinematics, all playing at master and grandmaster levels, laddering constantly. I've got lots of people in bronze to gold that I know that ladder frequently. You know, Mike Warheim plays all the time. He's got hundreds and hundreds of games played. So if you're having a bad day, if you're seeing a balance problem, I'm probably having the same bad day, right? So we're trying to figure out when we see that, is this temporary? Is it real? If we are going to make a change, what's the correct change? How can we make the smallest, most effective change? It's very easy to make one small change that actually damages things, right? So we have to be very careful and very strategic. One of the things we've gotten to be able to do in the last, I think the last year, is the ability to put out a balanced test map into our arcade service. So we can put up a map that's got just changes. We say, okay, everybody go play. Tell us what you think. It's a little bit, it doesn't have matchmaking. It's not quite as good as the no balance change, but it's very safe. It doesn't change tournament results. It doesn't ruin the game for all. So I think we're probably going to do a balance map in the next week or 2. 4 Wings of Liberty, specifically focused on the investor. And then we're probably also going to test some changes in Heart of the Swarm for Infestor, which if we like, because they're more extreme changes, we could roll those back into Wings. And if we don't like them, they never work, right? We just won't deal with it, right? So because we got the beta environment right now, which won't always be the case, we have some extra tools, which is pretty exciting right now.
You talk about Mike Warheim. What race does he play?
Mike Warheim, actually I don't know what race he actually plays. I play random, right? I play random, I have to, right? Like I can't afford any chance of a race by
as well. He plays random.
David Kim plays, he totally plays random.
What's your league?
I'm currently in Platinum. I was Diamond for a couple of seasons. I fell off and fell back to Platinum. I'm a little old, so I'm not as fast as I used to be. I also tend to waste time trying a bunch of new strats, which I shouldn't do if I'm playing competitively, but I need to see how things are working, so it bombs me back. It's really funny because I play random, and I see every enemy race all the time. I'm always seeing different races. I know all your cheese. Whatever cheese you got, I got the block. You're not going to cheese me. I know your 7 pool. I know your SCV all in. I've got your Banshee Rush. I know your cheese. But once we get past about 150 food, my gameplay starts to really fall apart because I don't see that part as much, right? I see it more rarely. And so I'll be in the middle of a game, right? Against, say, I got Zerg at random. I'm playing against some Protoss, and I'm like, wait. What are we doing now? I almost want to ask the guy, like, what, is it Corruptors? What do I do? Right, like, I forget, right? But that's the downside of playing random. I do play a specific race at certain periods of play. So there was a period of beta where our Zerg players in Wings of Liberty, our Zerg players were very upset, right? So I played nothing but Zerg for a couple of weeks to experience what they're experiencing, right? So we can make some suggestions, because if I'm playing random, I'm not getting their experience, right? Right now, I know in Heart of the Swarm, our Terran players are very upset that they don't have enough new stuff. So I've been playing nothing but Terran for the last 2 or 3 weeks, right? To experience what they're experiencing and get a sense, right? I'll random occasionally just to check out Protoss. They're just, okay, this is not terrible, right? But the Terran players have been complaining the most. And most of what I've been doing is trying to see how close we are to finding a legitimate mech strategy for Terrans versus Protoss. Unfortunately, at my level, for whatever reason, there's a lot of Protoss players. A lot of Protoss players. Yes. So I almost can just get a Protoss player at will. Like I press the button, hey, it's a Protoss match. Nice. Right? Like, all right, great. I've been wanting to play this match, right? So I've been mostly trying to test mech builds and see what I need to make those mech builds work, and then I'll talk with the other balance designers. Say, okay, here's the game I had. Let me see the games you had. Let me talk to some guys in the cinematics. They'll send us replays. We'll look at all these games and go, okay, what tweaks can we make here to make this mech strategy potentially work for us? Are we way off? Is there no tweak possibly in play at this point? So that's the problem we've been studying for the last couple of weeks.
So I want to ask you about the design philosophy for each race in Heart of the Swarm. I mean, as a Zerg, I see the new units are for helping break siege lines, like the Viper, those siege tanks, and laying siege with the swarm host.
Sure.
And what was the design philosophy for the Terran and Protoss? What were you aiming for?
So what we're aiming for, I like to say there's sort of a great vision and philosophy, but there's not. Right? Each of the units is pointed at different problems we're seeing in the metagame today, or things that we look at and go, we have no tools to balance this. Like if you look at the Terrans, if the Protoss build too many charged zealots, we don't have anything we can balance to make that work. Not really. We would have to buff Hellion, but then that would make the run-bys insanity, right? It would make it absolutely insane. So we don't have anything. There's nothing we can use right now. And so, you know, I see games now when I'm watching, and I'm seeing Zealot Archon. And it gets to a certain stage of the game where Zealot Archon becomes extremely real, and I get very fearful for my Terran player. I'm like, I think he's in trouble. I don't know what he's going to do. I don't know what I would do, right? And so Hellbat is helping us fill that very specific need of something that can just stand up and fight against that army composition, right? So that's just a very specific need that we have. Something like Widowmine is something that we thought, well, this might be cool. Let's try it, right? And see how it goes. It gives the Terrans some more board control. And maybe more importantly, gives them something small that can be used to counter air forces, right? Like if you're trying to hold back a pack of Mutalisks, you've got Stim Marines, which is legitimate. But if you ever wanted to go mech, in any real way, you have Thors. Thors are great, as long as they're not, the mutas aren't running around all the time. Wait, what do mutas do? They run around all the time. So our Terran players are very smart guys. They've been good at kind of blocking this, but they don't have a lot of tools. And we don't want something that comes out that just ruins muta. It can't be like, now muta is stopped and it will never be. Right? So there needs to be some strategy to using it, some challenges to using it. So we're hoping that maybe a Widowmine can be used in that sense as a way to sort of surprise the enemy, make him a little bit nervous, make him want to sort of scout with an overseer a little bit, like are there Widowmines in the area? What are we doing here, right? And get a sense for it. So that's kind of our thoughts on the turn at this point. Again, I still want to push TVP mech and see if that's possible for us to do. It's going to be a challenge for us because Bio is so good as Terrans. I don't want to just change it to mech. I don't say, well, now Bio's awful and mech is amazing. Yay! That's not more diversity, right? We want Bio to be good sometimes on certain maps when the Protoss goes certain compositions. And we want mech to be great on certain maps when the Protoss goes certain compositions, right? And getting that balance right is going to be a real challenge for us. I feel like we might be close, because I feel like the biggest opposition, there's a couple oppositions to it, there's three now actually. Charged Zealot's a huge problem. They don't take much damage from the siege tanks, they move wicked fast. They're going to overrun those siege tanks, right? So maybe Hellbat can beat them back if we buff it or tune it right. Maybe Widowmine can be a factor, but I think Hellbat's going to be the answer in that case. Blink Stalker, totally a threat. Stalkers do melt under siege tank fight. So I feel like spread out siege tanks is probably the right answer to that. And then just like you do against Zerg, like where you defense in depth or whatever. So maybe spread out siege tanks. There's Immortals in play. We have tested it. Immortals do melt the minute the shield is gone. So what you want to have that 1 or 2 EMPs in play. A couple of ghosts is probably not going to kill you to have those if you have a mech army. You don't need very many barracks to get ghosts in play. This is all hypothetical. I could be totally wrong about this. If you lose to the ladder, I'm sorry.
Don't try it.
And you can't. Well, try it. No, try it.
Do try it.
Send me feedback. You know, so a couple. What you want to do in that case is you don't want to like be EMP in advance of the battle. You want to wait for the Protoss to close. He's very confident in his mortals, and then boom, 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 the EMPs go down, and then the mortals aerosol into that siege tank fire. The biggest problem right now is actually Tempest, which we've introduced as an anti-Colossus weapon to make Protoss versus Protoss games more variable, which has been really great for me. That's some of my best Protoss versus Protoss ever in Hearthstone, right? Really great games. Because the Colossus is still viable, but not dominant by any stretch. If you build too many Colossus, I will punish you with Tempest, right? And of course, the anti-Broodlord weapon as well, which should get us away from the reliance on Vortex as the anti-Broodlord weapon. Now, Protoss players here have been very smart. They're using Warp Prism more often to harass the slow Broodlord army, right? As the Broodlord army is moving out, I'm going to kill everything. They're like, Warp Prism, okay, right? They're trying to wear them now, which is great, but still, it's a clever counter, right? It's hard to do and all that, you get it, right? So Broodlord will give them a legitimate weapon against, Tempest can be a legitimate weapon against the Broodlord. And only now they're using Tempest to nuke siege tanks from orbit, right? Like just wiping them out, right?
So obvious.
Yeah, right, and they should, right? It's correct, right? It's correct. So that's an interesting challenge for us because we want to make the mech viable. And we feel like the mech, in order to be different and viable, should be about the siege tank. Like when we first put out the beta, we had a unit called the Warhound, right? Which was an anti-mech, right? It was an anti-mech robot. And like, mech's gonna be viable, and it was really viable. And it was a little overpowered, but we could have balanced it. That wasn't the concern. Right now we cut it because of balance. We did not cut it for balance reasons. The balance was dual. We cut it because it felt a lot like a Marauder. exactly like a Marauder. Actually,
yeah,
it was a straight up Marauder.
Yeah.
And it was really just a couple of guys on the forums who said that, and we're like, yeah, that's true. That's true. Right? Like I wanted to believe, but I was wrong. Right? And then the second thing about it that was a flaw was the mech army kind of played like the bio army. It was just moving around, attack, retreat, attack, retreat. And I'm like, well, okay, I've already got this gameplay. It's called bio. Do I need to change the stats and get the same gameplay? That's kind of boring, right? So what makes mech fun is siege tech. It's the fact that you should move your army 3 times in a game. If you move it 5 or 6, you're going to get killed because you're always sieging and unsieging, right? And he's going to catch you, siege and unsiege. So it's about this very deliberate, grabbing ground. The Bedevac that hits him, that forces him to pull back, that lets you advance, right? It's that very deliberate strategy, very slow, very contained, very smart, difficult strategy that makes mech fun. So we were looking at, like, if we're going to make mech work versus Protoss, it's got to be about the siege tank. The siege tank has to be part of it. That's what makes mech different from bio. And so in that case, we felt like we got to work on this from a different angle. This Warhound's got to go, and we got to figure a way to make. Or it can come back if we needed to, but it can't be just this Marauder, right? That just makes me feel nothing but bees. I just run around and pretend like I'm playing mech, but in fact I'm just playing, metal bio, right? Yeah, which is not the same. So those are some of the challenges that we face in Heart of the Swarm. It's been a really exciting time. Lots of great feedback from the fans, really helping us tune and design and polish this game.
Warhound is it going back?
I don't expect
another unit.
No, I don't expect the Warhound to return. I feel like we probably have the units in play we need to do what we want to do. The Terrans have some of the most diverse strategies in Wings of Liberty. We're creating even more diverse strategies for the Heart of the Swarm. I do expect the Terrans to get more tweaks on their units than a lot of the other races are receiving. So I expect we're going to try something different with Thor cannons. Try something different with the Raven Seeker missile. We've already substantially changed the Reaper to use it in completely different ways than I've ever used before. Honestly, Terran versus Terran right now can be terrifying because of the early Reapers. I've won games against players where I'm harassing with Reapers, and I'm expanding behind the harassment, and then we're GG. I'm like, oh, okay, great. So a very powerful unit, even at my terrible platinum level at this point, right?
I'm glad. Not terrible.
I'm with you, brother. We can do this. Lots of changes for the Terrans in that respect. For us, it's more about diversity of strategy. I think it is for our fans as well. They look at unit count, they're really asking for, can you please give me some new strategies, right? Can I make sure that I have enough new strategies this game feels different and exciting and challenging to me? That's what they want, and we want to give them that. But I don't think it's about the Warhound. It's about diverse strategy. I think we have the tools to do that. If we don't, we'll throw another unit, right? If we feel like we have a new idea for a unit that would absolutely add a ton of new strategy, then we'll totally put it in. But I think we have the tools in play right now to really make the race really fun to play.
Cool. So my last question about map design in Heart of the Swarm. We have some cool new features like the destructible rocket tower.
Right.
Yeah. And unbuildable plates and whatever. Was there anything else that you tried and even more, like weather or?
This was about the limit of what we tried. I think we had some early experiments. I don't remember them all that well. We have tried in the past some different types of Zelmaga structures, right? That would spawn stuff, and they were just always awful. We tried selling structures with garrison, like bunkers, and they were terrible as well. We didn't have a lot that we tried that didn't make it in this one, right? We were more focused on the new units. We had a couple of ideas early on that worked out, and so we went with those.
That's it.
Cool.
Thank you very much.
Hey, thanks guys. Love the geeky questions. Super fun. I could talk about that stuff all day long.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Talk about little fiddly, wow, what about the mothership core? Let's talk about the mothership core.
Awesome.